Hey guys, I'm Timon from Alchemy Spearfishing. Today I'm going to show you something that I always carry with me while spearfishing. Doesn't matter if I'm traveling or just out on a boat. There is always something that can break and ruin your day. This is why I always bring this little box with me. Let's go take a look inside. Let's start with one of the most basic things that we need. And this is wetsuit glue. I wouldn't go out spearfishing without having this in my pocket because I can't even count the amount of times that either me or one of my friends has had a little tear on their wetsuit. And the waters we fish here can get quite cold, so having your wetsuits tight and sealed is one of the most important things. Being able to do a quick fix beforehand, or even if you end up ripping your suit on a dive, you can always quickly fix it and continue your day of fishing. The second kind of glue that I bring with me is super glue. Just a little box with 3 packets of them. They can't go bad, they don't dry out if you have them in little packets, so yeah, I rather prefer to bring small packets with me than one large one. Those are always useful if you notice at the beginning of your dive that the rails of your fins, for example, are flying off. You can just apply a little bit of this and it will at least bring you through the day. When the super glue is not good enough anymore, usually I bring with me a tube of 2K epoxy glue. This can be used for pretty much anything. Even if the wood of your gun starts splitting off, you can have a good temporary but lasting fix with this. Of course, this is more used for traveling trips and not for day trips, as this is of course a little bit time consuming and involves some effort to use. However, for me, I think it's very essential to always carry in my fixing kit. One thing that is really important to have with you on a day-to-day basis is a reel line or a Dyneema line of, this is 100 meters. I can use this for pretty much anything. If I end up scuffing up my shooting line on the rocks or it snaps, I can use this. This is what I usually also use as shooting line. If I snap a rubber, I can use this to tie a new constrictor knot or even to tie new inserts for it. The options for this are really endless, and I think it's one of the most important things to carry with you when you are out on the boat or traveling. As we just talked about fixing rubbers on the boat, there is a few other things that are quite essential to this. For one, I always have a pair of long nose pliers with me. They are great to insert wishbones into even small ID rubbers. So that's one. Number two, a good pair of scissors with which you can cut your Dyneema to size. And lastly, always if we tie knots, we want to stop the ends of fuzzing out. So I always carry 2 lighters with me. One of them is a strom lighter with a very wind resistant flame. This is good to use on the boat. If you are in some wind, you can still burn off your rubber. And also just a normal one if you are traveling and trying to do fixes in a quiet environment. If you're out on a trip and you have to cut your rubbers again completely because they maybe cut something and they just ripped, you usually carry some spares. And just to know the length you can cut them to, I usually carry a tape, and this can of course also be useful to measure fish or anything else. Something that I've been using on pretty much all my recent travels is this little box. It contains a ratchet screwdriver and all kinds of bits. If, for example, you have something stuck in your mechanism and you need to take it out, or if you want to replace the line on your reel, there is almost always a little screw somewhere in the way. And you can be almost sure that those screws will not require the same type of screwdriver. So it's really nice to have a range of bits with you, so you are pretty much prepared for everything. If you are diving in a lot of structure with big rocks around you, it's quite likely that at some point you will bang your shaft into the rocks. If you hit a fish before or not, it's quite likely that your shaft afterwards is quite blunt. So I like to carry with me a stainless steel file, so I can always just give them a little touch up if they end up going too blunt. When using a breakaway system, there is always a lot of shackles involved. And because those can get lost or go overboard or whatever, I just like to carry a few of them in my spare parts box so I can fix my setup whenever I need to. Talking about spare parts, for my roller guns for example, I always carry a spare pulley system. If anything happens, I can replace it. Or an extra pair of rollers. Just in case something happens, I know that if I'm on the boat, I can quickly fix it and continue fishing. Also, for my breakaway system, I always carry a little bit of bungee line just if I need to replace that big breakaway bungee. They usually wear out quite quickly, so it's handy to have this with me. I just have a little bag with all kinds of small but thicker lines compared to this one. They are for, when you need a thicker line but just a small piece of it and you don't want to sacrifice the good shooting line for it. You have just some old off-cut lines they just fit in the box, so I carry them with me usually. Lastly, I carry some WD-40 and some zip ties because you can always need them. You never know. It's safe to have them, they don't take too much space, and yeah. So as you can see, everything fits in there quite well. It's a fair point to say that this box is quite bulky and annoying when traveling, but actually on some trips before I was using a dry bag to store all my fixing gear, and in the end usually everything got wet on the boat and I was left with rusty tools. So since a couple of years I'm using this box, which is waterproof, and I really don't see myself going back to a dry bag. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the video and dive safe.